Check it out, guys. Trillium. Lots of trillium. It's definitely spring in the woods. Stick with me, guys. Okay, guys. Coming to you here from Allegheny State Park in western New York. I'm going to do a video here comparing and contrasting the Coleman stoves and going over a bunch of accessories. Okay. Picked a campsite to kind of borrow for a few minutes. See more and more trillium up there. It's somebody's fire pit, a couple picnic tables. It's basically all I need. So, taking a look here, I've got three, okay? I've got a 425E, a 413G, and a 426D. So, the equivalent in today, the equivalent of the 425, this one here is the 424. The equivalent of the 413 is the 414, and the equivalent of the 426 is the 428. Although I did have a hard time finding a 428s for sale new. So basically what you'll see is this will be referred to as the 2-burner compact, and this will be referred to as a 2-burner deluxe, and this will be a 3-burner deluxe. Okay, and all of them that are currently on the line are the dual fuel models that supposedly burn gasoline. These will burn gasoline as well. Their generator isn't quite designed for it, and there's lots of negatives to using gasoline. We're going to get into it here. I've always been a big proponent of these. I've made a bunch of videos about them. And they're great during normal times, and they're really a good thing to have around for your disaster preps. So I'm going to set this camera up on a tripod, and then we're going to go over some accessories. Hang on a second. Okay, so here's the middle-sized stove kind of set up here, the 413G. You know, you have your obvious uses for this. You know, it's basically a cook stove, and there's several other accessories I'm going to show you that allow you to get the most out of this. The first accessory, okay, if you're going outdoors, camping, out to the property, whatever, you might want to have is extra fuel. Now you can carry a gallon can with you. That's really no big deal, unless you feel that you may be in a situation where you pack your stuff up and you're going to be leaving your car in the heat. Okay, if you think you're going to be going somewhere and you're going to be leaving your car sealed up, okay, like you're hitting the beach or something like that, you might want to have something like these extruded aluminum bottles. Okay, they'll hold up a lot better. There really won't be a danger of them rupturing in the car, okay, in the extreme heat. So these are bottles that are made by various companies to go with the modular stoves. This is a Brunton one, probably would be used with a Nova. You know, MSR makes them. They're pretty easy to find if you go to an outdoor store. Okay, so that's your first accessory. I personally recommend 1 liter or larger. Most of the companies make a 1 liter bottle, and Primus actually makes a 1.5 liter bottle. Okay, so that's a good accessory to have to be prepared. Now this next accessory I've talked about before. Okay, what this is, it's a propane adapter. Okay, so what you do is you pull out your fuel tank, and this will work on either model. Okay, and it's basically got a regulator, okay, and a fuel delivery tube that basically goes the same spot that the generator tube would. So this would fit right in here, just like that, and then you'd attach your 1 pound propane can there. Okay, now that is a good thing to have in a couple situations. Okay, if you have a novice who's going to be operating the stove, okay, you might want something like this, okay, because it's really easy just to turn the knob and light. It really turns it into a pretty basic setup. Okay, you don't have to pump and turn the lever up and turn it down. It's really not that complicated to light them anyway, but that just makes it that much easier. Additionally, you might have some of the 1-pound propane cans that you need to go through. In a disaster situation, it can be useful because you don't necessarily know what you're going to have access to. You know, you might, you know, all fuel sources are going to be in kind of short supply, okay? But you may find yourself with, you know, a round peg in a square hole, and this will let you take advantage of that situation, okay? Another good thing to have that I don't have here would be an adapter to fill the 1-pound cans from a 20-pound can. You know, in a disaster, you know, those 20-pound propane cans that everyone has on their grills are going to be everywhere, and they're not very man-portable. I mean, if it's the only thing you're carrying, you can carry it, but if you're carrying a bunch of stuff, you know, it'd really be nice to be able to draw off, you know, just a pound, you know, off one of those, and then be able to use it in a stove or with whatever appliances that you have. Okay. Okay, let's see what's next. The next thing that you definitely want to have is a fuel funnel of some kind. Okay. This is just a basic Coghlan's one. The Coleman one is nicer. It's got a felt kind of a dirt trap. This one just has a little brass trap in it. Either one works. I like to clip it right onto the accessory fuel bottle. Okay. Just be sure you have clean fuel. Now, normally when you're thinking of camp cookware, you think of dedicated camp cookware. You know, stuff that you buy at the outdoor store that's a little mess kit that all nests together. It's not really necessary. You can use with these ones, especially the larger ones, anything that you would use in your kitchen at home will work just fine. Okay, and I've got a big pot that I picked up at the restaurant supply store, which is pretty rugged. You know, it's designed to work in a restaurant. That's good if you want to make like salt potatoes, stuff like that. If you're cooking a large amount of pasta or rice, you could use something like that. So yeah, sky's the limit. Now, you might have a hard time with larger type stuff like this on the smaller compact version of the stove. Now, the compact version is really a great stove if you've got a small car and you don't have a lot of space to devote to it. If you're canoeing and you've got enough room to carry one of these, it's probably going to be the compact one, okay, or something smaller. But if you're car camping and space is no option, I would recommend the 2-burner Powerhouse one or the 413. Okay, see, we're getting a little rain here. I'm going to move the camera back just a little bit under some cover. Make sure it's aimed right. All right. All right. Oh, I got a good one here. Here we have the Coleman Oven. Okay. It's a good option if you want to bake something. Sometimes baked goods are really kind of a big morale booster, okay? And in an emergency situation, you know, you might want to bake something. If you got a lot of, you know, wheat put by, you might want to wait to bake that, okay? And this is a good option. You notice I've got it all assembled. I've noticed that my local Walmart's been selling these for about $40, and it's a good buy, I think. It collapses down to very small. It's basically about as thick as, you know, the front and the back here, and all the other bits kind of fold inside it. It's kind of a pain in the butt to set up. Once you do it a few times, it's still a pain in the butt to set up. Okay, so I generally just leave mine assembled. Another good thing about this is around the house, you know, in the middle of the summertime, who wants to bake? You know, people will find themselves not baking in the summertime because it's just going to heat the house way up. But this would let you put together sort of a summer kitchen out on your porch or your deck. And you could, you know, make things like cornbread or biscuits or stuff like that in the summertime without heating the house up. So it's a good option there. Now Now this next thing isn't really an off-the-shelf option. This is something I put together to fit a particular need. It's essentially an outdoor chafing dish. Okay. If I was going to set this up, I would pull the windscreen. If you've ever been to any sort of outdoor function, outdoor wedding, or anything that was catered, they probably had chafing dishes, you know, which is essentially something similar to this, with a couple sternos underneath it, and you'll see the waitstaff running around like mad, wondering why their stuff isn't up to temperature because they're using sterno out in the wind. A Coleman stove is a great heat source, and as you see, really, this is perfectly sized for the 2-burner deluxe edition. It also works well on the 3-burner, which is essentially the same size with just an additional burner sticking off the side, and it gives you an extra burner if you wanted to use to make salt potatoes or coffee or something like that. Okay, but basically what you do here is you fill this bottom tray with water, and then you've got this other tray and a lid, and you can get a variety of different insert trays. And basically what you do is you boil the water in the bottom, and then once it's boiling, you turn it down to a simmer, okay, and it will keep your food at temperature, basically. This is great if you're having a party over the summer. Set it up next to the grill, okay, and you can cook your burgers and dogs and then put them on here, and then as people need them, there's no bugs on them, and they're hot still, you know, and they're not all dried out like you might have if you leave them on that top rack in your grill. They'll get all dried out. Okay, so this is something that has really worked out well for me. You know, another thing is, a lot of times we have parties out here at the park and we're using the grill that they provide, which is a charcoal grill. Charcoal grill, you don't just turn on and turn off, right? You grill all your meat at once, and then it goes out, basically. And then, you know, if people show up a little while later, they can eat, you know, off a plate that's covered with meat and flies, or this works really well. You know, it keeps the bugs off it. As you see, we're having some bugs here, okay? And you can get different inserts. You can get, this is all one, and it's a fairly shallow one. I think it's a 2-inch insert. You can get ones that have dividers in them. You can get long, narrow ones, okay? You can get lids that are hinged. Just go down to your restaurant supply store, and now chafing dishes can tend to be a little pricey, but what's pricey are the decorative parts. A lot of them, the outer pan is decorative. So what this is just a simple aluminum steam table pan, okay, designed to be a replacement in a steam table. So this is fairly inexpensive. I think this whole setup cost me about $40 or $50 at the restaurant supply store. And I'm gonna point out one more thing here. I've got one more component, and I think this is about a 5-inch deep pan, which could basically go in here. If I can manage. Now you could obviously keep a lot more food in there. You don't necessarily have to use this for burgers and dogs. You could put a stew in there. In an emergency situation, if you had to set up, you know, in a disaster, the aftermath of a disaster, if you had to set up like a food line for people in a shelter and all the power was out and none of the food service equipment was working, you could set up a few of these and you could make an impromptu serving line out of it. And that would be fantastic. You know, it's not going to cook food with the water in here, and that's one thing you have to keep an eye on. You have to make sure that water stays in here and you don't burn it dry. Okay, so as long as you see steam shooting out, it's a good bet that there's water in there. But you don't want to wait until you don't see steam. What I like to do when it's up and running is every hour I'll take a look at it, and when it gets down to about a ½ inch, I'll just pour another gallon in, turn the heat up to high again until I see steam coming out, then turn it back down again. Okay, so yep, this is a fantastic option that you can do if you're in that situation. I think in the 426 here, I think I've got another option here. Here's an example of the Coleman filter funnel with the felt in it. This is essentially just like this, except a little bit. It has an auxiliary burner on the opposite side as well. This is the Sequoia stove stand. Okay, I don't know if this is going to be in camera here. Hang on a second. Okay, so basically what we do here, we set these up like this, go like this. Okay. And basically, this gives you a base that you can set your stove on, okay, and operate it. If you don't have a picnic table, this is a good thing to have. If you're setting it up next to a grill, this is a good thing to have, okay. But watch out with little kids around, because it's good as long as you're not clumsy. It can be tipped over relatively easily if you bump into it or a little kid walks into it, and it could be hazardous. Okay, but you know, you can go crazy. They've got these big contraptions that fold out, and they've got a lantern hook and all this stuff. Those are great, but this, I don't know if you noticed, I took this out of the suitcase. Okay, so in the 426 here, I had that. I had the funnel. I had an extra fuel bottle. Okay, so the 426 really has a lot of accessories going in. Okay. Oh, and some work gloves to grab hot pots and stuff. Always a good thing to have. Synthetic. Make sure, or not synthetic. Make sure it's cotton. You got work gloves that are cotton, and that's good because the cheaper ones are the cotton ones. All right, let's see here. So yeah, cotton won't melt, basically. A good point about that oven is that basically the way that oven works is different than your oven at home. Is that, you know, it doesn't have an automatic temperature control. You set there's a needle on it, and you basically set it by turning the heat up or down, and knowing that some of the heat is going to dissipate. Okay. So you have to kind of find an equilibrium where the heat is dissipating at the same rate that you're putting it in. Okay, and one of the difficulties with that is, as long as you got a nice calm day, everything's fine. You can find that relatively easily. And I like to do that before I actually put my food into it. I like to get it to the temperature that I want. And basically the temperature I want is I want the needle pointing up. Okay, there's degree markings on it. I take them with a grain of salt. Generally what I found is you point the needle up and you're good. You have to check the food periodically. Okay, where it gets complicated is if it's a windy day, because when it's windy, the stove is losing heat faster than when it calms down. Okay, so basically what you have to do is be constantly kind of tweaking it and adjusting it and watching it so that it doesn't go too high and so it doesn't drop down too much. If it's really giving you a hard time, one thing that I've heard to do, I haven't actually tried it myself, is if you have some cotton terry towels, you can soak them wet, get them soaking wet, kind of like I'm getting right now, and then you drape them over the oven. Okay, not so that it encloses the stove, but just so that it goes over the oven, and then basically it'll kind of shield it from the wind, and then as they dry out, because they will dry out, you just kind of pour some more water on them so that they wick it up. So that's a trick that I've heard about. I haven't tried it yet. But this is a cool trick, and this works really well. Like I said, go down to your restaurant supply store. This is the kind of stuff you're looking for. You've probably seen it, you know, a lot of times. But this is a great option for a variety of different situations. All right, well, I think I'm going to cut this short because I am getting a little bit wet. But it's been nice talking to you about this stuff, and I'll get this up as soon as I can. I did have a shelter set up where I was going to, a picnic shelter. I had everything all out of the car, but didn't 3 school buses worth of school kids show up? Oh, what are you going to do? All right, thanks for watching.